Blog Talk Radio.
All right, race fans, how the hell are you? It's Race Chat Live. Glad to have y'all here with us another night without the intro. I'm running a little bit behind there, but let's see if we can get us a small little intro going on here. How about this? All right. Hi, Willie. All right. Glad to have y'all on board with us tonight. Of course, I don't want to even be here. I think most of my colleagues understand that when a certain someone wins the race on Sunday, I tend to not feel like we have anything real to talk about. But I'm going to tell you, Blog Talk Radio done took a dump on us twice already this year, so I might as well get the show in as long as we can. Now, does that mean that I'm satisfied with the results that happened this Sunday night? You know what? I'll tell you. I can sit here and bitch and complain about all kinds of races that had nothing going on in them, dull, follow the leader races. It's going to take a lot tonight to just set aside that I didn't like the person that won the race. But all in all, that race does a lot for the sport, okay? And I'm not going to use my platform or our platform to destroy that. What happened Sunday night was beautiful for racing. It's hard for me to say that because of my disdain for a certain driver. It's okay. I'm a fan, right? I'm a fan first. I know I shouldn't be because I'm media, supposedly, something like that, whatever. I don't practice PJ journalism. But what I do practice is fairness. And if I'm going to come on here tonight, I'm not going to waste your time telling you about why I don't like Kyle Larson and why I feel like NASCAR made the wrong call. They supposedly have video evidence. They supposedly have photo evidence that Kyle Larson won the race. But I'm going to change this a little bit because I'm going to basically say, well, there's old technology, which is a photo finish. Remember, I believe the first Daytona 500 was decided 3 days later because of a picture that was found of a photo finish. Guys, we use transponders now. And those transponders are in the exact same location. These are copycat cars. And all the cars are the same. This is a copycat car. All the transponders are in one specific spot. Race fans, if y'all did not see, I believe it was the race at Atlanta, where Daniel Suarez, it was a very close finish, but the scoring tower changed moments after the race, millisecond, maybe second, maybe half a second, maybe a full second, maybe even 2 seconds afterwards. the pylon changed, and it showed that Daniel Suarez was the winner. Well, my argument to all of this is that never changed. The transponder never changed. It said that Chris Buescher was the winner. You know, and that's fine. Like, NASCAR's used whatever technology they have. It'll be debated. This will be argued for a very long time, who actually won the race. I feel like Chris Buescher won the race. I think a lot of other people feel like Chris Buescher won the race. But what NASCAR's got to figure out is a fail-proof way to make sure that this never happens again. Because somebody's going to have a win that they feel like they deserved and won, and then you got a guy who's going to have an extra win on his resume. That's going to be in question. And I believe that the further along this goes and the experts examine what we've seen at Kansas, it'll probably come out later on that maybe Chris Buescher was really the winner of that race. And then it sends me to the questioning of, did NASCAR foresee this happening? Is that the reason why they took down the pylon at Talladega and these other racetracks so that they could maybe manipulate the finish? I got those questions and a whole lot more here tonight as I bring on Taz Taylor, the Tasmanian devil of the airways. Taz, I know you're chomping at the bit. I know you watched the race that I raced, and I know for the first half of that race it was quite the snooze fest. But that's not how it finished. Some are saying the greatest race of all time. Taz Taylor, I'm ready to bring you on, sir. What are your opinions? What we got to see this past Sunday?
I think we had the beginning of the race wasn't so bad. I mean, you had, I think the first stage, you know, people played the strategy of, do we go full on out or do we save to make it through the stage, that kind of deal, because it wasn't one driver dominant stage one. Stage two, I think, was kind of where a little bit of the boring piece of the puzzle came into play. Then stage three was where strategy really came into play, because you had guys going off of 2 tires. At one point, you got guys going off of 4 tires. Some were working on the fuel strategy, which towards the end of the race is where fuel strategy was coming into play, because Hamlin and Buescher were trying to save. Larson was told he was 3 laps in the good, put the pressure on, and then all of a sudden he started falling off like a anchor on a boat. And then you see Truex flying through from, like, where was it, 8th to catching the leader in like 2 laps, and probably would have won the race had the caution with like 5 or 6 to go not came out for Kyle Busch. But we did not get that finish to see what we got, and we ended up getting the closest finish in NASCAR history. And don't you worry, I looked up some things between the photo finish type of deal in terms of transponders, this, that. I did not get to watch the video yet, but Steve Letarte and Todd Gordon were breaking down the process of determining the winner in a photo finish. Bob Pockrass sat down with somebody who operates the high-speed camera line to determine the finish of a race should a photo finish happen, and he did this back at Las Vegas. So they have a speed camera in place on pit road, and they place this line right at basically where the straight edge should be of the start-finish line begins to determine it. And they do this for every race. Probably, I think they said they do this like before cars even hit the track for practice and such. And they line it all up and prepare it. And Bob Pockrass quoted this video of Letarte and Gordon breaking down the process, saying that in the video, Todd Gordon says the transponder margin of error is plus or minus 0.0015 seconds. So while yes, 9 times out of 10 we do tend to rely on the transponder system, but NASCAR always falls back to the photo finish for the accurate results that it needs to get. But I'll probably watch that video just to kind of look at the process of that. But I did do a little bit of research today on how they set this whole thing up and whatnot. And by the looks of a naked eye, it literally did look like Buescher had it. But when they broke it down frame by frame, and in the picture, it shows that Larson edged out Chris Buescher by you can pretty much say this plus minus 0.0015 of a difference, like paper thin difference.
Right. Well, I mean, look, we use transponders in the racing that we are involved in, and I'm not sure that we would use anything but the transponders. Everybody always wants to argue that it's who crossed the finish line first, but in dirt track racing, I don't really think that that's necessarily the truth. I think it's wherever the transponder hits the line at. I think that there's this has come up in a couple of dirt late model races a few times around the country. So I'm just not sure at what point in time do you ditch the technology for a framed shot, because the point of contact of crossing that line, especially at any point in time, it could have been, when you're dealing in fractions of seconds, such as what we're dealing with in the situation, the naked eye makes you believe that Chris Buescher crossed that finish line first. I have yet to even mention that Kyle Larson doored him to even get in position, right? That's fine. Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch beat each other's door panels off. But did you see Chris Buescher move? Did you see him waver? No, Kyle was basically pushing him down to try to get around him. And that's fine. That's what hard racing's about. But at the same time, the villain won.
Chris Buescher even said, we doored, and, he goes, if it was the other way around, he probably would have done the same exact thing. Chris Buescher even admitted, could he have done something a little bit different? Yeah, I mean, if you really think about it, you knew Larson's going to run the line that Larson has always ran, which is up on the high side. If Larson can run up against the wall and make it work, he's going to do it. Now, Buescher did not time Larson's run right, because if he did, Larson would not have ran up against the wall the way he did.
Right.
No, not sure.
I honestly think Kansas has the potential of being some people said this race had the potential of a championship finale if push came to shove, which I'm not fully against. But can Kansas field a crowd like that, though? Which in this case, I don't think so. Looking at TV ratings quick before we jump any further, FS1 got a $2.296 million for Sunday's delayed race at Kansas that featured the closest finish in the sport's history, down 2% from 2.352 for last year's race that ran on time. So, I mean, when you have delays, it's kind of expected to have a fall off in viewership, but the base pretty much to nearly flatline it from last year to this year, I think we could see impossible. We could possibly see viewership increase next week with another photo finish like that.
Yeah. It's gonna ride. Look, I mean, it's definitely a hell of a lot more entertaining than the Formula One race, without a doubt. Right? So, I mean, it's going to sell tickets. It's going to get the hype going. We've had, several photo finishes this year, the Daytona 500, Atlanta, now Kansas. This is exactly what we need as a sport to get the exposure that we need. But, NASCAR better have a better explanation next time when legitimately the transponder said that, Chris Buescher was the winner, right? And even the photos that we've seen don't look necessarily convincing, especially when the start-finish line isn't even. I mean, that's, the lines for the start-finish line weren't even, if that even makes any sense, Tasto.
Yeah, they were saying something of, like, how the line kind of reacted to how the rubber was being taken down. Some people said, I think somebody said that with the rain, as much rain as they had gotten before the race, it could have affected the line and whatnot. I'm not sure what story to really fully believe here. If it was really like that many, that much racing really impacted how the line kind of affects out, or if really the rain did play a factor in the track while the track jet dryers were out there trying to dry the track, and somehow the paint maybe came up and spread a bit. I don't really know. That's a hard to explain situation.
Right. Well, all I know is it was a great race, and cautions breed cautions. We got to see guys that I guess weren't prepared for the temperature change. Obviously, the rain delay sent the race further into the evening than what was planned beforehand. Obviously, the cars were, prepared to race in the daytime. Those cautions that happened there after the midway of the race, I'm not sure if they had much to do with track temps and the weather, but it was definitely cooler. It was definitely a cooler situation there, which didn't, a lot of times, I guess, the heat makes things slick. I'm not sure how the cooler temperatures dealt with the tires, but it was definitely night and day race, right? Versus what you seen the first half of the race and what you seen the second half of the race. Look, would I want that kind of finish next week? You're damn right. I would take that finish every weekend in a row, as long as it's not Kyle Larson winning every single time, right? I swear, I feel like this has turned into the freaking Hendrick Joe Gibbs show. I think I've said that before. We were getting parity. We were getting guys who were not the front runners. We didn't have a big three, right? Like, the big three is bad for NASCAR. It's not good. And we're back to the big three again, like the big three. Okay, we can name them really simple, right? Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Kyle Larson, right? Big three, okay? That's not good for racing. For the last 2-3 years, we've had consistent, different winners throughout the season. This is we're taking a step backwards. We took a step backwards with the safety of the car. Now we're taking a step backwards as we don't have the parity that we had originally, right? And then, Chris Buescher lost the race by .0001, right? They had a fast race car. Ford almost got it done. But in reality, when the same old guy always wins, it is a turnoff to some of us, right? I mean, it's just, look, it's hard to have storylines here when the same three people win the race every weekend, right?
But,
So
we knew it was going to come because this is the third year of the next gen car? Yes. Or no? Yes.
do I know?
This is the third year of the next gen car, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I
it
believe
is.
we started in 2021. Yeah.
Yes. So you knew we were going to lose. Eventually, we were going to lose the parity, and we were going to get back to the big three because we're going to see the same drivers running up front. Will we see some parity mixed in through the field? Oh, of course. I'm not throwing that out the window by any stretch of the means. I mean, when we do drivers shout-outs, there's quite a few that deserve it, and we have been doing it for the last few weeks. Now, in terms of going from 16, 17 different winners to we may get about, I would say about 10. 10, and I'm probably stretching it, but I think we're getting to the point where we know what drivers have adjusted best to this next gen car and are capable of making the adjustments. The crews are getting adjusted to it. The teams are as well. So it's just a matter of time, and maybe our time came quicker than we had thought.
Yeah. Well, we need to get back to parity, and however quick we can get there, the better the sport will be. Hopefully as the season progresses, we will see as we go to these tracks that are not necessarily playoff racetracks. We've done hit most of the playoff racetracks, right, already midway through the season. So, when we're coming up on the next, 15 races, I believe, we're already on race 11. So at least the next 10 races, these are tracks like Michigan, Pocono, New Hampshire. Those places are not in the Watkins Glen. Those races are not in the Chase. Daytona. So we're going to several racetracks that are not in the Chase, and hopefully we'll get to see a fluent of drivers that we haven't seen in Victory Lane this year make it there. It would be crazy to see, first of all, Chris Buescher making it to Victory Lane before Joey Logano or, Ryan Blaney. But, hey, obviously RFK showed up this past weekend, and I'm very proud of that team getting themselves back headed in the right direction, Taz.
Oh, yeah. RFK in the last few weeks is definitely, if last year didn't show it, despite this year not winning, they are still on the competitive side like they were last year, minus the wins, however. It's not coming out of just Chris Buescher either. We're seeing spotlights of Brad Keselowski, too. And, how many times has Brad finished second this year? 2 or 3 times that I can remember?
Right.
So, and I would not be surprised if we see an RFK win before, say, a Penske win.
Oh, yeah. We're coming at Darlington. Real drivers win Darlington. We could definitely see a Brad Keselowski win at Darlington. Of course, anticipated return of Eric Jones, who has two Darlington wins. So it definitely puts the driver back in control when you have a racetrack like the Lady in Black.
But the thing, and I'm not trying to knock down on Eric Jones by any stretch of the means. I think Eric Jones could be a good contender and serious contender, and not trying to jump ahead to the hot picks. Yeah, obviously we'll save that towards the end of the show, but just to kind of get a sneak preview of it, I think Eric Jones hit the same stride coming back from injury that guys like Chase Elliott and Alex Bowman, because, I mean, you got to remember, yes, Eric Jones sat out for 2 races. What is it, 2 races now? Yes, because he was only supposed to sit out 1, but the team told him to sit out for a second. So yeah, Jones sat out for 2 races, whereas Chase Elliott sat out for like 5 or 6 before he came back for injury.
Right.
Bowman was about the same time frame, I think a little bit longer, and they were not guns blazing, swinging the fences when they got back in the car. Could Eric Jones possibly do that? Maybe, but again, when drivers tend to come back to racing after getting injured, they're not always the hot take. But that doesn't take away from the driver talent that, as you have mentioned.
Right.
So it's one of those it's one of those give and take type of things. How does a driver respond back from coming from injury?
Well, I've seen Brad Keselowski go win a championship. I watched Denny Hamlin knock off several wins. You know, some people take injuries and they fail, and then others are like Michael Jordan, the flu game. You know, where they become exceptional. So
Kyle Busch is another one.
Right. He won a championship after coming back from injury. Right, exactly. So, you know, hopefully Eric Jones will prove that he deserves to be back behind. Well, I think Corey Heim did a great job subbing in, but like we said, we're headed to Darlington. It's a driver's track. It's going to be, you know, this kind of puts it back in the wheelhouse of how good of a driver are you. It kind of evens it out, you know. Look, and some of the best races, not to take away from Kansas, some of the best races we've had have been 1.5 miles. As a matter of fact, I seen something yesterday, I think it was, that just really, I was like, are you serious? It said, do we bring back, do we make more cookie cutter tracks? Right? Like, are we honestly at that point now to where we're going to rage for more cookie cutter races, I guess? Well, if you heard the song.
If we keep this car, I could see more 1.5 miles coming back until the short track / road course package improves. I think some tracks, maybe the short track package works. Maybe, and sometimes I don't think it does. This whole adjustment to the short track, trying to make it better, road course deal, it's a headache because it's like it works in one place but it doesn't in another.
I'm sorry, Taz, do what?
The short track road course package, it's like a hit or miss because it's like it works in one place, but in another place it's like the most boring thing to watch.
Right.
So I don't know what adjustment. And I'm not sitting here saying NASCAR is doing a terrible job and they're not looking for improvements, because obviously they are, because they have made some changes. I mean, look at the Coliseum. Coliseum was a pretty good race, I thought, for the Clash. Bristol had the tire wear. I'm trying to think, what was before Bristol where we had a decent race? Martinsville, kind of a snoozer, I thought.
Right.
Richmond wasn't so bad to start with, but that was because they had the rain deal. Well, they brought in a rain package, but not the full rain package, which makes no sense.
Sure.
Let's bring the rain tires, but not the windshield wipers, so we can race in the rain.
Yeah. Well, let's jump topics, man. Let's go into the news rumor mill. Of course, silly season started already. It's going to be full-fledged for the rest of the year, and it'll give us a lot to talk about. So if you want to spin the rumor mill, Taz Taylor, you can go ahead and do that. And we're going to stop on Stuart Haas Racing has informed teams what they are expecting the charter to be worth if they were to sell it. There's also a rumor mill going around that there could be a possible merger That merger would be between Front Row Motorsports and Stewart Haas Racing, with Stewart Haas Racing selling 2 of its charters. Now, if I'm not mistaken, they can actually lease out one of those charters if that's something that I'm not sure how that would work. But they would have to, I know, eventually get rid of 2 charters. Whether or not they were able to hold on to one or not, I'm not sure. But if there is a merger between Front Row Motorsports and Stewart Haas Racing, is that a good move for Ford, Taz Taylor, or is that does that kind of feel like moving backwards? I mean, you're making one team a 4-car team, but you're making the other team a 2-car team. So in reality, we're still losing 2 cars.
If I were Stewart Haas in Front Row, I think, Front Row trying to align themselves with Stewart Haas in this sense could possibly hurt their alliance with RFK, because they're working with
Penske.
RFK Racing.
Penske. They're with Penske.
Oh, they're working with.
Yeah. Front Row Motorsports signed a deal at the beginning of the year to align themselves with Penske.
Okay, so then who had the RFK alliance? Might have been Rick Ware.
Rick Ware. It is.
Okay, I was thinking the wrong one then. Front Row teaming with Stewart Haas. I mean, it could be a cold shoulder to Penske. Maybe this could benefit Penske in a way if Front Row backs out. I know Front Row has been pretty kind of ambitious in the sense that they have a truck team, but the truck team hasn't really been a bust at all.
Right.
It's been a pretty competitive truck team.
I don't know. Lane Riggs is making a damn fool of himself right now, but yeah.
True.
Look, Front Row Motorsports has always been basically a third bucket team, okay? And they've always had a small shop. They've always been, kind of on their own. If this gives Front Row Motorsports the ability to move into a gigantic shop, Bob Jenkins to make the program finally what he has dreamed of it being, there is no other team out there other than Rick Ware Racing, who hasn't quite gotten there yet, that has the ability to go from being a bottom seller team into finally a legit manufacturer sponsored race team, and that would be Front Row Motorsports, because they've been around for so long and have done it the small way, right? They've only here in the last 10 years really become competitive, right? For the years before that, they were pretty much just a start and part team. Nobody wants to remember that Kevin Conway was a driver for Front Row Motorsports at one point in time, but also drivers like John Andre, Todd Gillian, Travis Kavapel, David Gillian are all names and such that have raced with Front Row Motorsports. David Reagan, I believe David Reagan got the very first win. Chris Buescher got his very first win in a Front Row Motorsports car. So, if any team did it the right way, it would be Front Row Motorsports. Now, what we're losing is a super team with Stewart Haas, and you have to wonder, who's eliminating themselves from the program? Is this the Chris has predicted 2 years ago that Stewart Haas, that Tony Stewart was going to eventually sell his ties to Stewart Haas because Tony Stewart has other things in his bag now and not too concerned about what happens with the race team? Yeah, I think that sounds kind of right. But what it does is it leaves Ford in a bad spot, because now, you need to come up with 2 more teams, or at least 2 more, at least another team owner, so that you can have 2 more teams added to the mix. If not, then you're going to kind of lose your advantage at certain tracks and stuff. And, Ford's always been good. Look, Jaws dropped when they brought in the Penske team. Jaws dropped when they got in Stewart Haas Racing to switch to Ford. So I'm sure somewhere down the line they have it figured out. If I'm RFK, though, and I know that there's 2 charters for sale, I'm going to get my hands on at least one of them, right? And Ford needs to make sure that happens. If 2 charters do come up for sale, I hope with the amount of money that Fenway, John Henry and his establishment has with RFK, has the collateral and the funds to go ahead and make that purchase and maybe bring over a driver such as the name of, I don't know, Martin Truex Jr., who's also in the rumor mill. He may be leaving Joe Gibbs Racing at the end of the season. Now, Taz Taylor, most of us believe that means that Martin Truex Jr. will probably retire. What are your thoughts on that?
So I want to go back. I want to hit on the Stewart-Haas deal before I hit the Truex deal. Stewart-Haas, I think, could benefit better by downsizing from a 4-car team to a 3-car team, because this could put more money into their Cup program and try to launch themselves to being a top team. It could also maybe help on the Xfinity program, because I think Cole Custer is outdueling Riley Herbst ever since Custer went back down to the Xfinity Series. Or maybe Riley Herbst is just not adjusting very well. Not sure what that entire deal is, but in terms of front row expanding, I hope that they don't lose the good mojo that they have right now. If there is one team I think that could probably grab a 3rd charter at this point, and I know I'm probably stretching it, I don't think front row is probably the answer. I think RFK could be the answer we're seeing the success turnaround of RFK being a well-known success team that we knew about. Then it kind of snoozed off and was like a mid-pack team at best, to now they're competitive week in and week out, back to where they used to be. So I think front row could be stretching a limb, and I hope they prove me wrong. In all honesty,
right.
But in terms of the Truex deal, if he leaves Gibbs, I don't think anybody signs him. It would kind of be a dumb move if somebody picks him up, in the sense that, you're only getting a year-by-year basis with him. You're not benefiting your team in the long run.
Yeah, well, as I said before, I believe Martin Truex is probably at the point to where he's most likely going to retire. I think that he's one of the oldest drivers left in the Cup Series. You've watched Kevin Harvick, you've watched Kurt Busch, you've watched these older guys. They're gone. Martin Truex is kind of an older jet in a young league right now.
I could see a team picking up Truex for like a 1-year deal just to give a driver they plan on bringing up an extra year. Like, say if front row has a guy they want to put in the Cup Series but is not ready, I could see them saying, if they were to expand to a 3-car team, I could see them saying, all right, Truex, you hop in, and then the following year, Truex says retirement for real, and that's the only way I could see Truex signing a new deal with somebody, because at this point in the game, Gibbs is probably going to bring up Chandler Smith, I don't even think that. I think John Hunter could possibly leave Legacy and go over to Gibbs.
Right.
Which would leave Legacy in the dust, but Legacy could probably bring up somebody like, say, a Chandler Smith, or
right.
Gosh, or maybe, who knows? Maybe they take Corey Heim in this instance.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously, John Hunter Nemechek. Anytime you're the fifth driver or you're the backup driver, I think you're kind of, it's known that you're kind of the next guy in line. Ty Gibbs, of course, John Hunter Nemechek, now Corey Heim. We're getting to see these drivers who are up and coming because of injuries and stuff like that, which makes it kind of interesting to know that these guys are on a certain career path line. But whether Corey Heim feels that too, of course, there's rumors that Michael McDowell may be leaving Front Row Motorsports at the end of the year. How about a homecoming with Michael McDowell going to Joe Gibbs Racing and taking over that 19 car? I think that would be a legit situation that could happen. With Joe Gibbs, I don't know if you want to go very young so fast. I think that you should take your time with Corey Heim. But if you were to bring over a John Hunter Nemechek, then basically I kind of feel like what you're saying there is, the Legacy Motor Club isn't really a Tier 3, isn't really a Tier 1 race team. It's more like a Tier 2 or Tier 3 because you're robbing the talent pool from another team to race with your team. And, Eric Jones should probably be the one reunited back with Joe Gibbs Racing, if any of that were to transpire, because Eric Jones was a Joe Gibbs Racing driver. Joe Gibbs had a lot invested into Eric Jones. As a matter of fact, Kyle Busch scouted Eric Jones many years before, and was basically a direct pipeline from Kyle Busch. As a matter of fact, it all goes back to him winning at the Snowball Derby. And the next year, Kyle Busch said, "You're going to drive my car." That's how Eric Jones made a name for himself.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't know. I feel like Eric Jones. I mean, Jones and Gibbs is a touchy thing, I feel like. I feel like Jones could be the face of Legacy until he gets maybe a better offer. And do I think Gibbs is probably it? I don't entirely think so. But then again, with Eric Jones, and I think they had this problem too when he became a free agent at one point, was how much sponsorship dollars does he carry by himself?
Right. I don't know if anything's really changed on that behalf.
I would say I would say the same thing until probably he, I guess, wins more or competes, say, consistently in the top 15, top 10 on a weekly basis.
Right.
And this is not a knock on Jones by anything, but he's not as marketable as some of these other drivers.
Yeah, that could be true, especially some of the younger drivers, right? I tell you, the Chandler Smith, that kid, he seems to have it all put together, right? And did a brief stint up in the Cup Series with a few races and stuff like that. So now he's doing really well with Joe Gibbs Racing. The talent pool, we've always waited for the talent pool to run dry over at TRD, and they continue to pop out stellar drivers throughout the organization there. So
I honestly thought the talent pool in TRD would insanely thin out with Kyle Busch leaving, and it doesn't seem like it really thinned out as much as I had predicted.
Right. Well, Dale Jr. announced today that he is going to TNT Broadcasting. It sounds like Dale Jr. kind of knew what he was doing with getting out of the NBC contract. Do you see Dale Jr. basically kind of heading away now on this whole new broadcasting team through the TNT and the Amazon? And what was the other? I think it was another. Was it CW or something?
So Junior signed with Amazon Prime and TNT, where Amazon. So Pockers broke it down. Fox Sports has the first 12 points races plus the Clash and All-Star. NBC Sports has the last 14 points races. So Amazon Prime will have races 13 through 17, which is where Dale Jr. is, and TNT will have races 18 through 22, again, where Jr. resides. A lot of people are saying, well, if you've got TNT involved, bring back the good old Alan Bestwick, and I'm all for it if they do.
Maybe we should get Alan Bestwick to come on the show and tell us whether or not he's a candidate for that. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have our people reach out to his people.
Oh, my God, that would be amazing.
It really would be. It would be. Yeah, so, I mean, I like the idea, Dale Jr. kind of putting the staff together. He is a media mogul. Not a module. Sorry. He's a media mogul. He definitely needs no help in running Dirty Mo Radio. Dirty Mo Radio is a perfect example of his abilities to be able to construct good programming, listenable programming. He's probably listened to more than NASCAR radio on Sirius XM just because of the availability to it. I'm sure between his podcast, Door Bumper Clear, and Actions Detrimental, between those three programs is a substantial amount of viewership. But so what do you think is what do you think's up Dale Jr.'s sleeve as he tries to piece this new broadcasting team together?
I think he will definitely bring viewership with TNT, and I know a lot of the NASCAR fans that were there around, what was it, like the early to late 2000s is where NASCAR and TNT was pretty popular.
Right.
I could see viewership come back and be pretty well, and maybe skyrocket, but skyrocket is probably stretching it. But in terms of Amazon, I don't know if they'll have the viewership numbers, because at that point you have to subscribe to Amazon, and I don't know if they'll have the viewership numbers to follow suit during those few races.
Oh.
I mean, it's basically like saying you have to buy a channel that wasn't part of your TV package.
For the CW?
For the Amazon.
Oh, for the Amazon. So wait a minute. Even if you have Amazon, you're going to have to buy it?
Well, I would think if you're an Amazon Plus member,
Prime,
you probably have it. Or whatever, yeah,
right.
Amazon Prime member, you'll get it. But if you're not, you're pretty much screwed.
Yeah, and I just don't know why we're limiting the capabilities of people to watch something. I can see playing it on Amazon so that people in the streaming world can watch it as well. But being that that's the only place it's going to be broadcasted, I think is an asinine idea, and NASCAR really will deserve the fate that it receives for the 6 or 7 races when nobody goes out of their way to buy a subscription to Amazon just to watch the races. Out of sight, out of mind. I'm an Amazon Prime member already. I did subscribe to Peacock during the NFL playoffs so that I could watch the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Buffalo Bills. But my brother, look at the two names that I just said, right? The Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. It's not like I was subscribing to Peacock to watch the Bears and the Saints, okay? I mean, or the Bears and the Panthers. I mean, it was literally a playoff game of, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. And the NFL ratings, you can find people in L.A., more people in L.A. watching the NFL than what you're going to find in the entire globe. I'm sorry, I'm a flat earther. I didn't mean to say globe. But in the entire world that's listening or watching the NASCAR race. So, I definitely believe that NASCAR is not considering their fan base, and they're going to push this on. It's not going to work out too well for them. Like I said, we enjoy Amazon Prime. They deliver our packages right to our front door. We live in the country. We use this service a lot, and so just having the streaming service that goes along with it. I mean, it's probably Amazon Prime. It's probably the least amount of watched streaming service that we watch in this house, unless it's a Thursday night football game.
Well, you have to think of it.
Yeah.
You have to think of it, too, is like Amazon should partner with a TV program. So, because if you think about Peacock teamed with NBC, right? So, say if there's supposed to be a certain sports team or a certain race that's supposed to be on, say, on a Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, but whatever's happening that was supposed to end at 3 o'clock, say, runs over, then you have the streaming service to fall back on saying, all right, the program that starts at 3 p.m. is now aired on Peacock, go there, and we'll go back to the main streaming service when this event that's running over it is officially over. It would make sense if Amazon did that deal, but they're not. Fox does that, but they have their own platform.
Yeah. NBC
fell back on Peacock. That's where the golden part of Peacock and NBC began. Amazon don't have that. Amazon is its own thing, and the problem with Amazon is that it's not a main broadcast channel.
Right. Let me ask you something real quick. If Amazon Prime come out right now and told you that they are going to air the races commercial free, what would your reaction be?
It better be worth every red cent I put into their Prime deal.
Maybe we need to get on the phone with some Amazon Prime executives. If y'all want this deal to work, if y'all want this thing to work out for you, if you want people to subscribe to your streaming service, this is what NASCAR fans demand. No commercials.
Don't
bring
like
no
Fox
commercials, and you'll have
a race.
If you bring no commercials to the table, Taylor, we will have so many people tuning into your program that you'll have no other option than to buy the whole damn season and buy out the other networks, so that we finally have a home, one certain home, and the only home to go to watch NASCAR racing. Because I'll be honest with you, it feels like 1991 again, where you just don't know what damn channel the race is going to come on. And since we're talking about this right now, it brings me up to another frustrating factor. Okay, a Craig's moment of grinding my gears. I love spring football, and I think spring football is a great thing. But when Fox chooses to put spring football on the Fox network channel and put NASCAR on Fox Sports 1, I throw my freaking hands up in the air and I beg, once again, Amazon Prime, don't air any commercials. Put the rumor out there you're not going to do it. Let us all flock to Amazon Prime so that we can make sure that y'all buy the contract, the next TV contract, or buy out the TV contract so that we don't have to watch nothing but commercials. Please.
Can we just bring back NASCAR Race Pass?
Please.
And just put everything on there?
Yeah. I mean, it should have been done already. Yeah, I know people have talked back and been like, well, you don't want to open that Pandora's box. It'll be $19.99 a month. You know how much money I would save on my cable package if I could just pay $19.99 a month for NASCAR? Look, if I could pay $19.99 a month for football and $19.99 a month for racing, right? And then my whatever it is, $150 a year subscription to Flow Racing, bro. Do you know how much money I would save on a freaking cable bill? I swear to God, my cable bill comes in every month at $300, and I only watch 10 channels. But the 10 channels that I watch are channels that you can't get unless you have the premium package. So I would save myself so much money if the sports just went directly to its own streaming service. Similar as what Dirt Track's done, right? Has Dirt Track not paved the way for this already? Have we not, but then again, Flow Racing used to be really cool, and now, you get a lot of commercials. Not as bad as NASCAR, but still, it's the first time I've seen a couple of commercials on Flow Racing. I was like, yeah, well, we just wait till we get to the NBC coverage.
Fox puts on a commercial 11 laps into a race, and then they'll miss out on the freaking
average of every 8 minutes. On average, every 8 minutes.
Let's go side by side when we don't need to go side by side.
yeah, side by side. I swear. And let's go to commercial when there's side by side racing and pit stops.
Full-blown commercial when there's good racing going on. Oh, shoot. When we come back, we might miss a freaking caution. We'll have to show you the replay of it. Welcome back, folks. This is what you missed during commercial break. Thanks a lot.
Right, if they even have enough cameras to film it. Yeah. So Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Now, there's another rumor going around that, first of all, Kroger has announced they're not returning to the 47 team, and I believe that sponsorship is headed to Joe Gibbs Racing, which means that Joe Gibbs Racing is inviting yet another investor into his program, and that would be the other owners of the 47 team. I believe it's Tad something. I can't remember the last name. But it is said that they are taking their Kroger sponsorship over to Joe Gibbs Racing for next season. But Ricky Stenhouse just signed a long-term deal to stay at the 47 team. Is there something behind the scenes there that we don't know? We always known that there was ties between that team and Roush Racing. Of course, Roush parked Chris Buescher there for several years. Then Ricky Stenhouse went over to there. I'm not sure if there's still a partnership between those two teams, even though one raced to Ford and one raced to Chevy. There was a point in time where the JTG team was a Ford team, but then they switched to Chevy several years ago. What do you think the status is right now with Ricky Stenhouse? And could that team be a merger team that merges into maybe a RFK race team, or possibly, who knows, maybe another legacy team, or even possibly, without going too far out there and Salt, the 2311 team, knowing that they are wanting to expand. What do you think happens with Ricky Stenhouse?
Trackhouse. There's your answer.
Trackhouse. Wow. Because they have quite a few drivers that they don't have rides for, correct, Taz Taylor?
SVG and Zane Smith are the two main ones.
So, but what does that do with Ricky Stenhouse, though, in that situation if he signed a long-term deal? Undo the battery. Just disconnect the battery.
Stenhouse.
Hey, hold the group there, okay?
Stenhouse, what would you do with him? I think Stenhouse could be marketable. But as far as I know with Stenhouse, he's only carried the team's main sponsor. I mean, when he was with Roush, there was Fastenal. Chris Buescher still has Fastenal and post Ricky Stenhouse. Oh, trying to think what else is there. Stenhouse took over JTG with Kroger, but they had Kroger before Stenhouse. I do believe. I don't know. Stenhouse could fall into the Spire shoes if Zane Smith leaves and all that happy nonsense. I don't know. This is a hard pill to take in for Stenhouse deal. When you put in the fact of if JTG were to sell the charter to somebody else, who's looking to expand, who's not looking to expand, I don't really know. But right now, the only place I can fully put my circle on would be Trackhouse, because they have drivers that are signed with Trackhouse but are not really with the Trackhouse team. Like I mentioned, SVG is running Xfinity for Colleague. You got Zane Smith, who's signed with Trackhouse but is racing for Spire. So it's kind of hard to put out there where Ricky Stenhouse Jr. would go if JTG were to sell in this case. Maybe you bring him back to Ford to front row if they expand. I don't see Ricky Stenhouse going over to Toyota, though I could be wrong. But there are a few driver shout-outs I want to put out there quick while I'm thinking about it for Kansas. Great finishes from Noah.
Buddy. Go ahead. Sorry. I'm back.
So I was mentioning with Stenhouse, it's hard to put my finger on where he would go if JTG sells. I'm thinking if JTG sells the charter and say front row buys, I could see Stenhouse going over to front row. But again, the question flies with Stenhouse, what sponsorship dollars does he carry by himself? Because as far as I know, a lot of the sponsorship that Stenhouse has is usually dedicated to the team. Like he had Fastenal and one or two others when he was with Roush. Stenhouse leaves Roush, and he didn't bring Fastenal over. I don't think he brought the main sponsors he had with Roush with him to JTG.
No.
And I think Kroger was with JTG before Stenhouse anyway.
Right. Yeah, no, the sponsorship, of course, is tied directly to the partial owners. I believe the charter, that is still up for grabs of whether or not the charter is going to go to them. I'm sure somebody has to buy somebody out. So whether or not Brad Doherty and them can come up with enough money to secure the charter, or if it goes over with the former partial owners, part owners, that's going to be, a big question because, of course, that team doesn't exist without the Kroger sponsorship and the Procter & Gamble sponsorship that goes along with that. So it will be interesting to see how Ricky Stenhouse's career plays out from here. Of course, I think Ricky does a heck of a job with what little resources they have there at the JCG Doherty race team. And definitely.
And one thing I want to break down. One thing I want to break down for maybe some of the viewers or listeners who may not fully understand what we're talking about in terms of sponsorship dollars. With a lot of the teams, they have dedicated sponsors. So, like as I mentioned, Roush has Castrol and Fastenal. Hendrick has Exalta. They have Ally. They have obviously Hendrick Cars. Gibbs has Interstate Batteries. DeWalt. Now, that's sponsorship dedicated to the team. In terms of sponsorship dedicated to the driver, you have to think of it this way. Martin Truex Jr., when he was with Front Row Motorsports, or not Front Row, Furniture Row, he had 5 Hour Energy, he had Bass Pro Shops, he had I think it's Advent Owners Insurance or something along that, Auto Owners Insurance, something along that line. And when Truex was out of a ride with Furniture Row because they closed the doors and he went to Joe Gibbs, Bass Pro and Auto Owners Insurance went with Truex. So if Truex says I'm leaving Joe Gibbs, we'll see if Bass Pro jumps ship with him. We'll see if Auto Owners jumps ship with him as well. That basically, sponsors have the right to, do they want to dedicate to the team itself, or do they want to dedicate to the driver itself? And we've seen last year with Denny Hamlin and FedEx. Denny Hamlin obviously been with FedEx for as long as I can think of in terms of his Cup Series career. When Denny Hamlin raced the one SRX race, who jumped ship with him to be the sponsor on his car? FedEx.
Right.
I mean, Kyle Busch had M&M's with Joe Gibbs for the longest time. Mars backed out, and Kyle Busch went over to RCR, and some of the sponsors that went from Reddick to Busch are the sponsors that were with RCR. I think Kyle Busch brought in Lucas Oil, and I think he brought in like 1 or 2 others of his own.
Yeah. Yeah, there is drivers that are, tied to sponsorships, such as like Martin Truex Jr. Basically, Bass Pro Shops has been his sponsor since basically his inception into NASCAR racing. I believe Pennzoil left the one car and went somewhere else, and Bass Pro Shops was on the hood of the car for Martin Truex Jr.'s rookie season in the Cup Series. Now, there's FedEx with Denny Hamlin. I believe they are tied directly together. And outside of that box, Taz Taylor, it becomes, I think, Napa is tied directly with Chase Elliott. And really, I think that's it.
I think Napa and Hooters are tied to Chase Elliott at this point.
Yeah, exactly, right. So, those are very few and far between where the driver actually carries the sponsorship on the race car. It's not something that's seen these days. Of course, in the days of Daytona 500, that's where the sponsorship always laid in. I mean, Daytona 500, Days of Thunder, in that fairy tale world, that's where the sponsor always laid on, was the driver and not the team. So, I feel like that's kind of how the geographic has changed. And you want to thank Penske for being part of that change, because of his way of integrating his Penske services through his race teams that have, then turned around and been basically a contract through Penske. I think you can't say the same for Hendrick Motorsports, because they've had so many different sponsorships. The only sponsorship that's, been with Hendrick for the beginning of time is the Jeff Gordon, sponsorship DuPont. But most people wouldn't recognize DuPont as still being a sponsorship with Hendrick Motorsports, and that's because DuPont has been called many different names.
DuPont turned over to Exalta.
Right. And so unless you are in the stock market or good in business, you probably wouldn't recognize that fact, that it is still connected together. So, but, at the same time, this is how we are now. Richard Childress wouldn't have all the sponsors that he has at Richard Childress Racing right now if it wasn't for Kyle Busch. Tyler Reddick by far didn't bring in the amount of sponsors that Kyle Busch has been able to bring, but those sponsors are specifically tied into the agreement with Childress and Kyle Busch. A couple of Kyle Busch's sponsors as well were layovers from the Cheddar sponsorship, and I believe the MGM sponsorship were sponsors for Tyler Reddick when he was racing there. So,
right.
It kind of goes either way. If a guy is able to come in like a Paul Menard who has a family business that follows him,
Menard.
I guess that's kind of how. That's kind of how you get that done deal.
When he was with Richard Childress, he had Menards, and when he went from Childress to Wood Brothers, Menards went with him. Because obviously,
right. Well, his last name was Menard. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't know this, but Paul Menard actually made some starts in IndyCar. Did you know that?
No, I actually did not.
Paul Menard was an IndyCar driver before he was a NASCAR driver. And Menard was his sponsor in IndyCar. You can go check it out. He kind of transitioned over with Robbie Gordon, who was also an IndyCar driver before becoming a NASCAR driver. So, Paul Menard was originally an IndyCar driver. I got to tell Taz Taylor something he didn't know today. How about that? I feel special. One of the other things that I know that has come through the rumor mill this week on the silly season side, if we jump back over to that real quick, I'd forgotten to mention that it has not been made official, but rumor has it that Harrison Burton will not be returning to the 21 team.
Wood Brothers can't be the laughing stock anymore?
Yeah, well, I see blemishes every now and then of a driver who can actually drive a race car, but then by sometime around the end of the race, he's spinning on his own coming out of turn 4. So,
or flipping upside
I think
down.
it's time. I wouldn't be. Yeah, I would go ahead and pull the plug now, right? I would want to put in a driver, maybe a Cole Custer or something to that, just to see what I can get here. Of course, Austin Cindric may be a good place to send him, and that would put the 2-car up for possibly a big name driver. I could see that really, because you would basically want to demote the guy who's not performing in your flagship race car. It is tough every week in, week out to see the troubles of the 2-car. And let me tell you something. That Snap-on car, that is probably my favorite paint scheme of the year. That Snap-on paint scheme just did something to me. I like a black race car. I like a charcoal race car even more, and I love the red on it. So it looked like the Black Widow out there. I'm not going to lie to you. And then to see it in the wall and crushed and everything else like that is, it's about as disappointing as watching Jimmy Johnson in that same damn wreck. Wasn't he in that wreck? Wasn't he part of that? I think that was the same wreck, wasn't it?
No, he wasn't in the. No, Johnson was not in the Cindric wreck on the back straightaway. Johnson was involved with a different wreck, I believe in turn 1, if I remembered right.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I remember seeing the butt end of that race car up in the air. It looked like a pretty massive hit there by Johnson. He got hit from
But he's
behind,
not complaining.
No.
He hasn't complained of anything.
I think he did do a little bit of. Yeah, I mean, he did complain a little bit. He complained about his competitors not paying attention. But anyway, back to the Harrison Burton deal. Yeah, so if I was Penske, I would make the move now to try to, maybe see if I could, put somebody in the car that can make it go faster. Put somebody in the car maybe that, bring Matt DiBenedetto back. I don't know if that would be the right thing to do. But there's definitely some talent in the Xfinity Series that could get a little bit of exposure. I don't think Riley Herbst could do better than Harrison Burton.
Justin Haley.
Maybe Cole Custer. I definitely believe Cole Custer could do better than Harrison Burton.
You have to think of it this way. The problem with Cole Custer is that he would have to betray some family dollars with Haas, which is attached to Stuart Haas Racing, obviously, and go race for Wood Brothers, who's a satellite team to Penske. Yeah. So you have kind of the family ties there at Penske with Cindric, and then you have the family ties of Custer with Stuart Haas Racing. So I guess what way to solve it than letting Cole Custer come over there and outperform Austin Cindric in the same type of equipment to see who exactly is the better shop manager's child, right? The battle of the shop manager's child. I think Justin Haley should go over there. Go over to Wood Brothers. I think Justin Haley would be a good fit for there. And it's not like he's not bringing his own sponsorship dollars. I think he's got some attached to him that could fund Wood Brothers there. I'm not fully sure where else that would fit, though.
Right. I don't know, but silly season's just now getting started. We haven't even gotten to the All-Star break yet, and we're already knee-deep into who's going where. But you know what? Don't be surprised, race fans, because I guarantee you plans for 2026 are already being made as well as we speak. Speaking of 2026, as we get ready to move to hot picks, there was a storyline out that in order to attract a new manufacturer, manufacturers are requesting NASCAR go ahead and move to a hybrid type system in their motor departments. Now, I want to say something real quick. Why would you expect the other teams, the Ford, the Chevy, and the Toyota, to invest the mega amounts of money just to appease a new manufacturer? I think that in itself is the nobody's going to be joining the sport anytime soon, because you're not going to have three manufacturers agree to spend $200 million, maybe $400 million to design a new motor for NASCAR. And I think that if it was one motor, that they were designing all together and pitching in for it, I could see that as possible. But and that would basically be the same thing that we're doing in the truck series and taking the engine departments out of it. But outside of that, Taz Taylor, what are your thoughts that basically a demand from a new manufacturer is design a new motor or we're not coming? What do you think about that real quick before we run into Taz's hot picks?
Only way I could see a new manufacturer come in to NASCAR is if NASCAR tries to find. See, I don't know, because I don't know about a new motor. I could see like if Honda or Hyundai try to get into NASCAR, if NASCAR elaborated more on like their electric series. Because I don't see Hyundai or Honda making any sort of splash with the truck series in any way. Because you have to think of it this way. If you're going to have a manufacturer come in, the manufacturer is going to come in through mainly your top 3 series for the most part. And you have to think of trucks. That's what I would think.
Right.
But if you don't do trucks, then you have to expand somewhere else. Which I guess
Right.
you could say SUV, like if you have like an SUV series, which that could be the freaking laughing stock of anything. It would be like watching clown cars riding around or soccer mom vans going around the soccer field.
Oh, yeah.
But
I don't know, man. I got passed by a Porsche 4-door the other day. That was an SUV, and that thing sounded like a monster. It made me stand up in my seat when he passed me with that growling Porsche motor up underneath it. So I don't know. But, yeah, definitely we don't want to get that far out there. All right, Taz, let's get into Taz's hot picks so we can get the hell out of here.
All right, so for the hot picks, we are heading to the Lady in Black, known as Darlington, the tricky oval, as everyone puts it. Favorites I have listed down for Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, and Brad Keselowski. For the contenders, I have listed Tyler Reddick, Eric Jones, Chase Elliott, and then the underdogs, I have listed Chris Buescher, Sin Healy, and Bubba Wallace. One thing I do want to note is that there are 2 Cup Series drivers currently that have an average start and an average finish at Darlington within the top 10, that is being Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson. Hamlin has an average start of 8.8 with an average finish of an 8.4, has only finished outside the top 10 7 times, and Kyle Larson at Darlington has an average start of a 9.3 and an average finish of a 9.4, and has finished outside the top 10 at Darlington only 4 times. And Larson has led about 200 laps less than Denny Hamlin has.
Can I put something in here real quick?
Go right ahead.
Can I suggest changing Kyle Larson's name to I can't say that on the radio. I want to so bad, but I wanted to say what I said in the group.
He ain't no Max Verstappen.
No, Kyle, you're a loser. Let's change it to you're a loser. Kyle, you're a loser. I'm just having a hard time with Larson right now. Okay, you're just gonna have to. You know my love for Ford. You know how I'm just doing the best that I can. But when you say Kyle, there's only one Kyle that I want to think about right now, and that's Kyle Busch. And I'm trying to figure out, Taz Taylor, why Kyle Busch shouldn't be a favorite on this list. And I'm going to tell you why. Because this is where Kyle Busch can get pissed off. This is where he can get into his groove. This is where he can remember what it feels like to win. Does Kyle Larson have does Kyle Busch have some decent finishes here at the Lady in Black? So what's Kyle Busch's stats look like here?
Kyle Busch, 12.9 average start, 13.3 average finish. He has led 899 laps. He does have 1 win in 24 Darlington races. Has finished outside the top 10. He's finished outside the top 10 only 10 times.
Well, sounds like we have a good top 5 finisher for the race, but not a favorite. That's not favorite material there. I've wanted him to be a favorite. My story sounds good. Let's get a pissed off Kyle Busch ready to win a race at Darlington, right? No wonder I couldn't pin Kyle Busch directly to Darlington because there's only 1 win in his stat book. And I would be surprising to find out that wasn't probably in 2016, maybe 2017. when he got that win there.
Kyle Busch at Darlington, his one win came in 2008.
2008. Wow. Man, I don't know. I mean, definitely if he's a top 5 finisher on average of 10th place.
His first year racing for Joe Gibbs in the Cup Series.
Wow. That is crazy, man. That's a long time ago. He's due.
However,
he's due one there.
However, he does have a couple second-place finishes in there. And a couple thirds.
I would think so. Really. All right, see. Let's put him in the contender list. I think I may have another for a favorite.
Well, I can put Martin Truex Jr., who has 2 wins at this track. And I mean, outside of Truex, the only multi-winner at this track that's currently racing is Eric Jones. But again, we don't know what the situation is post-injury. We've seen drivers thrive, and we've seen drivers kind of not really fall, but not be so hot to start off with.
Right.
So it's kind of why
Eric Jones is too much of a risk factor.
That's kind of why I put Jones in the contender list, because if he was still racing, I would throw him as a favorite. Like, if he had not gotten injured, I would throw him as a favorite, but I can't. But with how the injuries have been the last couple of years, drivers don't come back full force, fence swinging. I had to throw him as a contender. There was no question.
All right.
So,
all right.
Truex, I think, fits the perfect nod for favorites. Again, he has
Busch
2
is
wins.
A contender.
Truex is a favorite.
Okay, Busch is a contender. Let's go to the underdog real quick. How about, one of the guys that's really, I think, knocking on the door for a win comes out of the Hendrick camp, and he's the least talked about Hendrick driver. I believe Alex Bowman. This could be a racetrack where Bowman gets it together. It's unlike any other racetrack. He's an emotional driver. You get him pissed off. You get him ready to get all fired up. Obviously, he's not very happy with his teammates. So this would be a racetrack where Alex Bowman could separate himself from his other teammates.
He has 1 top 5 and 3 top 10s in 12 Darlington races. His best finish is actually second back in 2020.
All right. So I'm solid with that one.
If we look back in the next-gen era, 2021 started 19th, finished 17th. And then the second trip was starting 5th, finished 26th. And then 2022 started 15th, got involved in a wreck that finished 29th. And then he had a 16th start, finishing 10th. And then last year, 2023, started 24th, got involved in a crash that resulted in a 33rd place finish. I could definitely see being an underdog for Alex Bowman. I mean, we've seen some good finishes the last couple weeks out of him. I just wish he would give himself some more confidence to put him back up there.
Okay. Sounds good to me. Another driver that likes to drive pissed off and on the high side, it should really be considered either a contender or a favorite here. And that driver has the name of Tyler Reddick. Is Tyler Reddick?
Oh, yeah. He's a contender.
A valuable name on this list? Okay. Oh, he's already on there? Oh,
yeah,
he is. Okay. All right, my bad.
How about Christopher Bell? So I want to get hit on Reddick quick. Reason why I put Reddick on the contender list, he has the 3rd best average finish of current Cup drivers with a 11.3 the one thing that kept him off the favorite list is that big old goose egg in the win column.
All right. And Christopher Bell?
Bell could probably fit the contenders category, being that he only has 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s and 9 Darlington races. He has led some laps, however.
So as we get down to the bottom of the list once again as an underdog, I'm caught between Todd Gillian and John Hunter Nemechek. If you had to choose one or the other, who would you choose to be in that underdog? I know. That's why I love my job. I really think Todd Gillian should get the slide here.
I think Noah Gragson fits the spot.
That's a good one, too. No, I can settle with that.
I think Noah Gragson deserves it. I mean, he's had some solid finishes, and Gragson loves running the top side.
Right.
And I think Gregson has ran pretty well at Darlington in the Xfinity Series too, if I remembered right. I don't remember if he won in the Xfinity side of things. I'm going to double check. A couple
notable names.
I feel like he has. I'm checking this quick. I'm feeling confident he did. He has. Oh, yep, I'm right. Oh, good Lord, yes. So Gregson in the Xfinity Series Gregson in the Xfinity Series batted 100 for finishing in the top 10. 7 races.
Batting 1,000?
Yeah, Gregson in 7 Darlington Xfinity races. He was in 2 wins, 5 top 5s, 7 for 7 in top 10s.
Interesting.
So, yeah, Gregson deserves the underdog here. He's got this one.
Yeah. And I see Chris Buescher on the list, so that's good. That's good. And my final suggestion to add to the list would,
right now, we only have one favorite to fill in.
Yeah, and that's got to be William Byron, man.
He's won at Darlington before.
Yeah, there's no doubt, man. I mean, you know, it's the Hendrick Joe Gibbs show. It is what it is. He's probably going to be my pick for this weekend.
I don't know who my pick is yet. I have circled 3 drivers, but I'm not sure which one to go with. And of course, I don't have a 3-sided coin to help me out.
Didn't somebody pick Chris Buescher last week? Did somebody pick Chris Buescher?
Yeah, Miss Lee did.
Man, shout out to Miss Lee. I mean, she almost nailed it. She did nail it in my book. She did. She nailed it.
And Chris Buescher was like a plus 6,000 in the betting odds last week too.
Right. Damn. Huh. He is this week a plus 2,000. So. All righty. Well, that'll do it for Race Chat Live. Glad to have had y'all on board here tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed the content. It was a little bit slower tonight than slower pace than what we're normally used to. Look, you're just lucky you got a show after Kyle Larson stunk up the weekend. I hate to be the big baby in the room. He didn't dominate. No, he didn't. And he had to door somebody to win. So, as far as I'm concerned, what bothers me the most, and I'll end it with this, Taz Taylor, is if you door me, you better be able to fight. And we all know Kyle Larson can't fight. And I'll end it with that. Buescher that redhead should have whooped his ass.
He nearly put Larson in the wall.
Well, I mean, he nearly should have put Larson in a knuckle sandwich. But I think he went from hell yes to heartbreaks in the matter of about 2.5 seconds, and NASCAR got the last lap. So be with us next Tuesday. I'm just screwing stuff up left and right. Be with us next week as we come back for another episode of Race Chat Live. We'll cover Darlington and a whole lot more. Hopefully you're out there supporting your local tracks. Taz, I've seen you at the racetrack this past weekend. Am I correct? Were you at the racetrack?
Yes, Saturday I was flagging at Action Park East Kart Speedway. They had their delayed 2023 prelude to the 212 event this past weekend. I think either next weekend or the weekend after, they're officially starting their 2024 campaign for their limited Saturday schedule. And then, of course, I'll be out Friday as long as Mother Nature cooperates. I'll be out Friday for Dodge City Speedway for their season opener of 2024.
All right. Well, of course, I was at the House of Hook this past weekend. We had a lot going on. 3 different series were there. The Mississippi Crate Racing Series, also the Factory Stock Super Series, and the Crate Racing USA Sportsman Touring Series was there. And it was a fun show. Of course, in 2 weeks, the 17th and the 18th, we'll have the Hunt the Front Super Series there at the House of Hook, Why Not Motorsports Park. Details are at Why Not Motorsports Park Facebook page and also whynotmotorsportspark.com. Go check it out. Taz Taylor, send us off, my friend.
All right, well, we want to thank everyone for listening along to Race Chat Live tonight here on Blog Talk Radio. If you ever miss a live show, check us out on any forms of podcasts you can think of, like Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're on it. Just search the 110 Nation. You'll find not only our shows, but the Wednesday night 110 Nation sports shows with Mr. CJ and Mario from Carolina Sports Plus. You also have Jared's Thursday night show, Safety to Success. Of course, still in the works is our Monday night show of the exclusives that airs on Monday nights. Those are still in the works. And then, of course, check out our YouTube page for full shows or clips of our shows. And don't forget to like our Facebook pages, the 110 Nation sports page and the Race Chat Live Facebook page to stay up to date on anything racing and sports related news. And, of course, links to our shows every single week. We want to thank everyone for listening along. We'll see you next Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. And this is the Caution Flag of Racing Radio, Chris Creighton. I am the Tasmanian Devil Flaggers, Taz Taylor, saying good night. We'll see y'all next Tuesday.
Bye, y'all.